Step into a world where survival was a daily triumph asterisk. Picture this. You wake to the stench of decay, your bed crawling with fleas, and the distant clang of a church bell reminding you that another grueling day has begun. This isn't a nightmare. It's reality for millions who lived centuries ago. Tonight, we're plunging into the raw, unfiltered past, a journey through the brutal streets of the Middle Ages, the glittering yet deadly courts of Imperial Russia, the sacred jungles of ancient Mexico, and the vibrant, pain-soaked canvases of Frida Kahlo. These are stories of grit, ambition, mystery, and defiance, humans who faced unimaginable odds and left legacies that still echo today. So dim the lights, mute your notifications, and join us on this epic voyage through time. Where are you tuning in from, and what's the vibe tonight? Let's dive into history's darkest corners and brightest triumphs together. Asterisk. The Middle Ages, a life of relentless struggle. Asterisk. Congratulations, it's the year 1325 and you've just opened your eyes. The good news? You're breathing. The bad news? So are the fleas infesting your bed, a lumpy, half-rotted straw mattress stuffed with bugs and hay that smells like it was scraped off a barn floor 3 months ago. There's no memory foam, no fluffy pillows, no 1,000 thread count sheets. Just a wool blanket caked with grime so heavy it could double as a medieval gym weight. You blink into the dim light of your home, a one-room wooden hut with no windows, just a charming open-concept layout where your family, livestock, and a thriving insect community coexist. The air is a pungent cocktail of stale beer, human sweat, goat musk, and something you desperately hope isn't mold. But deep down, you know it is. Scented candles. Not invented yet. Even if they were, they'd just melt into your dirt floor. The church bell clangs in the distance, a sound so piercing it's like the medieval version of an alarm clock, only louder and far less forgiving. You try to stretch, but the freezing air bites your skin, and your joints creak like an old gate. You're 22 years old, but in the Middle Ages, that's practically middle-aged. Your spine pops like kindling, and your knees sound like a sack of rocks rattled by a confused peasant. Getting out of bed is a gamble. The floor is either slick with last night's rain, which leaks through the thatched roof, or crusted with whatever your neighbor's chicken left behind. Your bare feet are now part of the ecosystem. Privacy? A foreign concept. Your entire family, plus a random cousin who never left, sleeps inches away. There's no bedroom, no curtains, no me time, just communal everything. Welcome to morning in medieval Europe where you're never alone, thanks to parasites, rodents, and 8 other people breathing your air. This is just the start of your day, and trust me, it gets worse. You've crawled out of your haystack of horrors, and now nature calls, loudly. Here's where you start longing for a modern bathroom. There's no toilet, no seat, no toilet paper, not even a grumpy plunger in sight. If you're a peasant, your bathroom is a wooden bucket behind the house, already brimming because Uncle Wolfstan had a bad night with some questionable turnips. The smell could wake the dead. You hold your breath, do what you must, and then brace yourself, toss the contents into the street. You're supposed to yell, "Gardez l'eau," French for "watch out below," but no one dodges in time. Medieval streets are open sewers, flowing with human waste, animal droppings, and liquids you'd rather not investigate. If you're in a town with public latrines, congrats. You get to sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers in a stinking outhouse where privacy is a myth and ventilation a cruel joke. Small talk? Sure, but don't breathe too deeply. Toilet paper? Never heard of it. You wipe with straw, leaves, rags, or, if you're feeling fancy, a scrap of wool. Sometimes you skip it altogether, which might explain why handshakes haven't caught on. If you're in a castle, things are slightly better. You might have a garderobe, a hole in the wall that drops waste straight into the moat. Sounds great, until you realize enemies know about these chutes and sometimes climb up them. Yes, invaders have entered castles through the toilet. Talk about a backdoor breach. Whether you're a farmer or a noble, medieval toileting is cold, public, and always a little dangerous. One slip on a wet stone path and you're face first in humanity's leftovers. You've survived the bathroom ordeal. Time for breakfast, right? Maybe something warm and comforting. Sorry, this is the Middle Ages. Nothing comforts you here. You squat by a smoky fire and stare into a wooden bowl of pottage, a thick, gloopy stew made from whatever you could scrape together. Grains, root vegetables, maybe a few beans if you're lucky. It's been simmering for days, sometimes weeks, with new ingredients tossed onto the old. It's less a recipe and more a science experiment gone wrong. On the side, a hunk of bread so dense it could knock out a knight. Made from coarse rye or barley, it's often padded with sawdust or ground acorns because wheat is for the rich. You don't slice this loaf, you wrestle it. Drinks? No orange juice, no latte. You're chugging beer. Yes, at dawn. Why? Because water is a petri dish of parasites and filth. Small beer, low in alcohol, is your safest bet. Kids drink it too. No one's thrilled, but it beats dying of dysentery. Meat or cheese? Only on Sundays or feast days and only if your lord is feeling generous. Fresh fruit? Only in season and usually fermented into wine by now. Spices? A pinch of pepper costs more than your yearly wages. Salt is so precious it's locked away. So you chew your gritty bread, sip your medieval beer, and try not to think about the rat that probably nibbled your pottage overnight. Breakfast doesn't fuel you. It just happens to you. Now it's time to get dressed. Your wardrobe? One outfit. A rough wool tunic or linen shift you've worn for months, maybe years. It's stained, stiff, and smells like a compost pile left to fester in a pigsty. Underwear? Optional. If you're lucky, a linen undershirt. If not, you're going commando under scratchy, sweaty layers stitched by someone who barely understood seams. No washing machine, no soap, no dry cleaner. Washing clothes means hauling water from a river, heating it over a fire and scrubbing with ashes, only to hang it in the sun, which appears 3 days a year. Shoes? If you own any, they're untreated leather, barely stitched, offering as much support as a soggy napkin. Most peasants go barefoot, trudging through mud, dung, and sharp rocks. Your skin hates you. Fleas, lice, and bed bugs live rent-free on your body. Everyone's infested. Nobles, monks, kids, all scratching like it's normal. You might dig at your armpit with a wooden spoon while chatting with the priest, and no one blinks. Rashes are just life. No dermatologist, no hydrocortisone, just the grim reality that it's probably scabies. You'll itch for months, your scalp a war zone of bites, your clothes a breeding ground for misery. Dressed in discomfort, you head outside to work. But first, you flash a morning smile, except you don't. Smiling is risky, dentally speaking. No toothbrush, no toothpaste, no floss. Oral hygiene is as popular as bathing, which is to say, not at all. Some chew twigs or rinse with vinegar, but most let their teeth fend for themselves. By your mid-20s, your mouth looks like a haunted crypt. Cavities fester, gums swell, and those stains aren't just food, they're decay. Sugar, though rare, is creeping in among the rich, rotting their teeth faster. Peasants get there slower, thanks to gritty bread and years of chewing. Toothaches are constant, a throbbing backdrop to life. The cure. A barber surgeon, the same guy who cuts your hair, yanks your tooth with an iron hook by candlelight. No anesthesia. An infected tooth can turn septic and kill you. A toothache in the 1300s could be your funeral. Bad breath is universal. Kissing? Good luck. If you're single, your worth isn't in your smile. It's in your land or livestock. Your mouth is a battlefield. and it's losing. But there's no time to dwell. You've got work, and it's brutal. As a peasant, you labor on a lord's land from dawn to dusk, 6 days a week. You wield a wooden hoe or rusty sickle, plowing fields by hand or with oxen if you're wealthy. You dig ditches, sow seeds, pull weeds, and carry water until your spine curves like a question mark. No one cares if you're tired. Mental health? Not a concept. Sunday is for church, unless you're harvesting or fending off raiders. Women work just as hard, plus they cook, clean, spin wool, and raise kids who start helping by age 5. No school, just a tiny rake and a prayer they don't catch the flu. If you're not a farmer, maybe you're a blacksmith or tanner working with fire or animal guts in a stifling shed. Pay? Barely enough to survive. Perks? Occasional bleeding, break a bone, tough luck, fever, chug beer, and keep moving. If you stop, you don't eat. In the Middle Ages, your job isn't a career, it's a survival marathon. Weather makes it worse. Winter turns your hut into a freezer, with gaps in the walls you could toss a cat through. Firewood is scarce. Gathering it can be illegal, even punishable by death. You huddle in your damp tunic, nose frozen, fingers stiff. Summer is a sweat lodge. No fan, no deodorant, just flies buzzing around last week's goat stew. Sunburn, mosquito bites, and chafing thighs are your summer aesthetic. Heat stroke? Just a bad turn. You're either shivering, praying your toes survive winter, or sweating, praying you don't faint in the fields. Thirsty? Water's not your friend, it's a silent killer. Streams look clear but carry upstream chamber pots or rotting pigs. Parasites and bacteria lurk in every sip. That's why beer is king, even for kids. Wine's for the rich who don't mind stumbling by noon. Bathing? Risky. People believed it opened pores to disease, so you stayed clean by keeping your protective layer of filth. Communal bathhouses existed but became hubs for gossip and scandal, so the church shut them down. Bathing meant hauling and boiling water for a leaky tub, only for someone else to use it first. Rainwater barrels? Breeding grounds for bird poop and moss. Water, whether for drinking or washing, is a gamble. One wrong sip and you're clutching your stomach, regretting every choice. Sick? Doctors are more torturers than healers. Everything, cough, rash, broken bone, is blamed on imbalanced humors. Blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Fever? Too much blood. Time for bloodletting with a dull blade or leeches. Sad? Excess black bile. Here's a laxative. Surgery, done without anesthesia, uses knives cleaned during the Last Crusade. Germs? Unknown. Disease comes from bad air or God's wrath. A stomachache means you sinned. Treatment might involve crushed beetles, more leeches, or a priest preparing your last rites. If you recover, it's God's mercy. If not, the leech gets a promotion. Dinner time. You shuffle home, stomach growling, hoping for a warm meal. Nope. Food preservation is a fantasy. No fridge, just salt or smoke. Meat, if you have it, has been hanging for days, kissed by flies and nibbled by rats. Bread, your diet's cornerstone, might be stretched with bark or clay in lean years. Rye bread carries ergot, a fungus causing hallucinations or death, like LSD with a side of tetanus. Vegetables? Only turnips, always turnips, boiled or mashed. Fruit rots fast. Dairy's a bacterial lottery. Spices like pepper are worth more than your house. Your meal tastes like wet burlap and despair. Oh, and poaching a rabbit could get you hanged. Game belongs to the Lord. Every bite is a risk, but you eat to survive. Evening falls. You'd think it's time to relax, but God's watching. So is the priest and your nosy neighbor Agnes, ready to snitch if you skip Mass. Religion isn't just part of life, it's everything. The church controls your calendar, laws, and soul. Prayer bells ring morning, noon, and night. Missing one is a sin. Eating meat on Friday, sin. Thinking impure thoughts, double sin. Hell is real, preached in vivid detail, rivers of fire, demons with pitchforks, eternal torment. You can't read the Bible. It's in Latin for monks and nobles. You rely on priests who might blame your crop failure on weak prayers. Tithes, 10% of everything, are mandatory. Grow wheat, give wheat. Raise chickens, hand over eggs. Nothing to give. You're spiritually and financially doomed. Holidays are holy days, not vacations. Mass, fasting, and confessing sins. Question the church? Heretics burn, witches drown, skeptics vanish. You chant, bow, and pray your soul lands in paradise, assuming the priest likes you. God may be merciful, but the church rarely is. If you're a woman, life's even harder. You're expected to marry young, bear children, and serve your husband, all while working the fields and managing the home. Education? Unlikely unless you're noble. Marriage at 12, pregnant by 14 is normal. Your opinion doesn't matter. Your property. Childbirth is a death lottery with no sterile tools or pain relief. Many women don't survive multiple pregnancies. Unmarried, suspicious, widowed, vulnerable, outspoken, witch. Even in the church, nuns live under strict rules, ranked below men. Women endure, obey, and suffer, gracefully of course. Violence is everywhere. Steal bread, lose a hand, gossip too much, wear a scold's bridle, a metal mask with a mouth gag. Accused of heresy or witchcraft, prove your innocence through trial by ordeal. Grab a stone from boiling water or sink in a river. Sinking means innocent, but you're dead. Executions are public spectacles. Hangings, beheadings, burnings, with crowds bringing snacks. Domestic violence is normal. Street fights are routine. Wars, feuds, and crusades simmer constantly. Life is fragile, justice arbitrary, and your neighbor might bash your skull over a stray pig. If you're still alive at 40, you're a legend, nicknamed the Old One. Life expectancy hovers around 30, 40, dragged down by infant mortality. Half of kids die before 5. No vaccines, no antibiotics. Women die in childbirth, men from farming accidents or minor infections. Plague turns cities into graveyards. Famine wipes out villages. Funerals are rushed to avoid disease, just a hole and a prayer if there's room in the churchyard. Life is short, brutal, and under constant siege. You don't retire. You just stop existing. So, how's your day been? You've woken in filth, used a bucket for a toilet, brushed your teeth with hope, nearly starved, worked until your bones screamed, scratched through itchy wool, and dodged a public flogging for owning a squirrel. Welcome to one day in the Middle Ages. Still dreaming of knighthood? Think again. The romanticized Middle Ages, gallant knights, noble ladies, candlelit feasts, is a fairy tale. Reality was gritty, cruel, and unfair. Born poor? You stayed poor. Born rich? You had a better shot but still risked dying from bad soup. Castles were cold, smoky, and flea-ridden. Life was survival, not leisure. Yet, amid the misery, people laughed, sang, loved, and found meaning. Not because life was easy, but because humans are relentless. Tonight, as you enjoy indoor plumbing and antibiotics, thank your ancestors who fought rats, famine, and feudalism so you wouldn't have to. Asterisk, Catherine the Great. From princess to empress of an empire asterisk. Before she was Catherine the Great, ruler of Russia and icon of ambition, she was Sophie Auguste, born in 1729 to a minor German noble family in Pomerania. Her duchy was small, her prospects modest, but Sophie was anything but ordinary. She had a sharp intellect, relentless charm, and a hunger for greatness that no title could contain. Her mother, Johanna, was cold and status-obsessed, pushing Sophie toward an advantageous match. Her father, a Prussian officer, was distant but taught her discipline. From a young age, Sophie learned to balance obedience with cunning, reading voraciously, mastering languages, and observing rooms before speaking, skills that would become her armor in one of Europe's most treacherous courts. When Russian Empress Elizabeth sought a bride for her heir, Grand Duke Peter, Sophie was summoned. At 14, she arrived in St. Petersburg in 1744, thin German dresses no match for the Russian winter, but her diplomatic smile was flawless. To win favor, she converted to Orthodoxy, taking the name Ekaterina Alexeyevna, Catherine. It was a public, symbolic act, burning the bridge to her past. No one watching the quiet teenager in her fur-trimmed coat could have predicted what followed: betrayal, revolution, and an empire reshaped by her will. Catherine's marriage to Peter was a gilded cage. Peter, awkward and immature, preferred toy soldiers to governing or loving his wife. He idolized Prussia's Frederick the Great and despised Russia, refusing to consummate the marriage for years. Catherine, however, embraced her new home. She studied Russian, memorized Orthodox rituals, and navigated the court's viper pit of gossip and paranoia. Empress Elizabeth watched her every move, letters read, friendships monitored. Catherine couldn't trust Peter, her scheming mother, or even her servants. Alliances could turn deadly overnight. But Catherine was no pawn. She played the court's games, charming officers, befriending scholars, and building a reputation for dignity, unlike Peter's childish tantrums. Behind closed doors, she read Voltaire and Montesquieu, dreaming of a Russia driven by reason and strength. Peter's weaknesses were her opportunity. She waited, observed, and planned, knowing the throne wouldn't be inherited. It would be seized. In 1762, after Elizabeth's death, Peter became Tsar Peter III. His reign imploded instantly. He alienated the church, insulted the nobility, and praised Prussia, Russia's enemy. He reversed policies, humiliated clergy, and threatened to divorce Catherine for his mistress. The court turned cold, the army grumbled, and even peasants saw him as a foreign puppet. Catherine struck. In July, with Peter at his summer palace, she launched a bloodless coup backed by military officers, including her lover Grigory Orlov. Riding through St. Petersburg in regalia, she was proclaimed Empress Catherine II. Peter, abandoned, surrendered within days. Soon after he died, officially from hemorrhoidal colic, unofficially murdered. Catherine was now empress not by birth or marriage, but by sheer will. Ruling was harder than seizing power. A foreign-born woman with no legitimate claim, she faced skepticism. She needed to be more than a schemer. She had to be a visionary. Catherine didn't just rule. She transformed Russia. Inspired by the Enlightenment, she corresponded with Voltaire, invited Diderot to her court, and bought his library to fund him. She formed the Legislative Commission in 1767 to rewrite Russia's laws, penning the Nakaz, a manifesto advocating equality before the law and condemning torture. It was radical for 18th-century Russia, though feudal realities limited its impact. She abolished some tortures, built schools, and expanded education, but kept serfdom to appease nobles. Catherine's ambition extended beyond reforms. She waged wars to expand Russia's borders, defeating the Ottoman Empire in the 1760s and 1770s, capturing Crimea and Black Sea ports. She joined Austria and Prussia in partitioning Poland, erasing it from the map by 1795. New cities rose, trade routes grew, and settlers cultivated Russian lands. Critics called her power-hungry. She saw it as destiny. Russia was no longer Europe's backward cousin. It was a force. Her private life was as bold as her rule. Catherine took lovers, handsome, often younger men like Grigory Potemkin, who was both partner and co-strategist. She rewarded loyalty with titles and estates, dismissing those who overstepped. Europe gossiped, painting her as scandalous, But Catherine saw love as natural, separate from governance. Her liaisons were strategic, surrounding her with loyal, capable men. The infamous horse rumor? A vicious lie spread by enemies. Catherine's real scandal was her unapologetic power as a woman. In 1773, danger struck. Yemelyan Pugachev, a Cossack, claimed to be Peter III, rallying serfs and peasants with promises of freedom. His rebellion swept the Volga, slaughtering nobles and seizing towns. For a moment, the empire teetered. Catherine crushed it ruthlessly, executing Pugachev in 1775. The revolt shook her, curbing her dreams of serf reform. She tightened control, leaning on nobles to maintain order. Enlightenment ideals bowed to stability. By her death in 1796, Catherine had ruled for 34 years, longer than any Russian woman. She expanded Russia by 200,000 square miles, founded the Hermitage, and made Russia a cultural hub. Her reign was contradictory, enlightened yet autocratic, reformist yet feudal. But she was effective, crafting power through intellect and calculation. Catherine didn't just wear the crown, she redefined it, proving a woman could rule with unmatched greatness. Asterisk. The Red Queen of Palenque, a nameless power in crimson asterisk. In the humid jungles of Chiapas, Mexico, the ruins of Palenque whisper ancient Maya secrets. Towering temples pierce the canopy, their limestone faces worn but alive with stories. In 1994, archaeologists led by Fanny Lopez Jimenez uncovered a mystery in Temple the Frame, a modest pyramid beside the Grand Temple of the Inscriptions, burial site of King Pakal the Great. Beneath the structure they found a sealed chamber, untouched by looters. Inside, a stone sarcophagus lay in silence. As they lifted the lid, red dust rose like smoke. Cinnabar, a toxic mercury sulfide used in Maya rituals. Within, a woman's skeleton, fragile yet intact, wore a jade mask and was surrounded by offerings, necklaces, diadems, ear spools, all crafted from jade and shell. This was no ordinary burial. It was royal. Yet, no name, no glyphs identified her. They called her the Red Queen, and her enigma endures. The burial screamed power. Cinnabar, blood red and sacred, symbolized life, rebirth, and the divine. Its toxicity, causing tremors or death, was known to the Maya, making its use a mark of reverence. Only the elite, like Pakal, were buried in Cinnabar. The Red Queen's tomb, just feet from Pakal's, suggests she was his equal, perhaps Ts'akbu Ajah, his wife. Her jade mask, mosaic tiles forming her face, protected her soul for the afterlife. Bone needles, obsidian blades, and ceramic vessels hinted at rituals she performed or were enacted for her. Jaguar skin beneath her skull and miniature jade figurines spoke of sacred status. The Maya saw death as a journey through Xibalba, the underworld, a maze of blood rivers and death gods. The Red Queen's burial was a map for this passage, her cinnabar coding a ritual transformation, her offerings tools for the soul. Her tomb's simplicity, no glyphs, no murals, was deliberate, a space for spiritual ascent, not mortal memory. Its east-west alignment mirrored the sun's path, tying her to cosmic cycles. Scholars debate her identity. Ts'akbu Ajah, Pakal's consort, is the strongest candidate. She bore 3 sons, held ceremonial roles, and her tomb's proximity to Pakal's suggests a dynastic pairing. DNA tests were inconclusive, ruling out a maternal link but not a spousal one. Others proposed she was Sak-Kuk, Pakal's mother and regent, or a high priestess. The lack of a name may be intentional. Her power lived in ritual, not stone. In Maya society, women were more than consorts. They were diplomats, priestesses, and rulers. Sak-Kuk governed Palenque before Pakal. Across Maya cities, Women led rituals, negotiated alliances, and were carved in stelae as equals. The Red Queen, whether queen or priestess, was a pillar of Palanca's order, her jade mask a symbol of divine identity, her cinnabar a bridge to the gods. Her silence isn't absence, it's a sacred mystery, a woman whose legacy speaks through crimson and stone. Asterisk, Frida Kahlo, Painting Pain into Power. Asterisk in Coyoacan, Mexico. Frida Kahlo was born on July 6, 1907, in the vibrant Casa Azul, a home of color and contradiction. The third of four daughters, Frida grew up between her reserved German-Hungarian father, Guillermo, and devout Mexican mother, Matilda. Polio struck at 6, weakening her right leg, but Frida's spirit was unbreakable. Bedridden, she bonded with her father, who encouraged her to exercise and think. Bold and curious, she dreamed of becoming a doctor, enrolling at 15 in Mexico City's National Preparatory School, one of few girls accepted. There, she joined the Cachuchas, a group debating philosophy and politics, her rebellious style, flowers in her hair, sharp wit, already shining. On September 17, 1925, Frida's life shattered. A bus crash impaled her with an iron rod, fracturing her spine, leg, pelvis, and more. At 18, her body was broken, her medical dreams gone. Months in a body cast, she faced pain, infection, and uncertainty. Her father gave her brushes. Her mother rigged an easel above her bed and a mirror let her see herself. Frida painted, not out of vanity, but survival. Her self-portraits became her voice, raw and unflinching. Frida's art was no escape, it was confrontation. She painted her pain, nails piercing her flesh, a cracked spine as a broken column, a body split and bleeding. Inspired by Mexican retablos' devotional art of suffering, she blended folk traditions with surrealism and medical imagery. Her colors, blood reds, jungle greens, screamed Mexico. "I paint myself because I'm alone and know myself best," she said. Her works were autopsies of her soul, defiant and honest. In 1928, Frida, 21 and still recovering, met Diego Rivera, Mexico's muralist giant. 20 years older, massive in stature and fame, Diego saw her paintings and recognized her genius. Their 1929 marriage was a tempest, passion, betrayal, and creativity. Diego's affairs, including with Frida's sister, wounded her deeply. She took lovers too, men and women, including Leon Trotsky and Georgia O'Keeffe. They divorced in 1939, remarried in 1940, this time as partners, not traditional lovers. Diego believed in her art, but Frida forged her own path. In the 1930s, Frida followed Diego to the U.S., where his mural commissions exposed her to capitalism's excess. A proud communist and Mexican nationalist, she mocked America's materialism, longing for Mexico's grit. Her self-portraits grew sharper, showing her bleeding, fragmented, yet defiant. Henry Ford Hospital, 1932, depicted her miscarriage, a raw tableau of loss. Back in Mexico, she immersed in politics, hosting Trotsky and wearing Tijuana dresses as cultural defiance. Casa Azul became her sanctuary, cobalt walls, Aztec statues, monkeys roaming free. Her paintings, like the two Fridas, 1939, showed her dual identity, European and indigenous, broken yet whole. In Paris, Picasso and Breton praised her, but she rejected surrealism's label. "I paint my reality." Her health worsened, over 30 surgeries, chronic pain, infections. Yet she painted, even bedridden, her brush a weapon against despair. In 1953, Frida's first Mexican solo show was a triumph. Too ill to attend, she arrived by ambulance, greeting guests from her hospital bed, tequila in hand. Her final works, like Viva la Vida, 1954, were defiant, celebrating life amid death. On July 13, 1954, at 47, Frida died in Casa Azul, likely from a pulmonary embolism, though some whispered suicide. Her last diary entry: "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return." Frida's legacy grew. In the 1970s and 1980s, feminists and activists reclaimed her as a symbol of resistance. Her unibrow, flower-crowned image became iconic on murals, T-shirts, dolls. Her paintings, once too strange, hang in top museums. She's a queer icon, a disabled artist, a Mexican hero. Frida didn't hide her flaws. She celebrated them, turning pain into sacred art. Her truth resonates, a mirror for anyone who suffered and fought to be seen. A tapestry of human resilience asterisk. From the Middle Ages' filthy streets to Catherine's imperial gambits, the Red Queen's silent power, and Frida's blazing canvases, these stories weave a tapestry of human endurance. Each era, each life, faced unrelenting challenges, yet they carved paths of meaning, power, and beauty. As you settle into your modern comforts, clean water, warm beds, medicine, pause to honor those who battled fleas, coups, and broken bodies to shape history. Their defiance lives in us, urging us to find light in our darkest chapters.